Hi. Whenever I post a video and I play something, I frequently get comments underneath from people saying, can you send me the tablature for that? Can you send the tabs? And it's a well-known phenomenon whenever anyone plays anything on YouTube, particularly on the ukulele, but sometimes on the guitar as well, there'll be comments underneath that just say, tabs please, where are the tabs? Can you send me the tabs? Now it's a very interesting phenomenon because when I was learning, having somebody like this sitting in front of a camera with high quality video and a clear shot of the person's fingers, and maybe even the person describing what their fingers are doing and sometimes zooming in on their fingers and showing you where they're going, and you can hear it and you can hear their description and you can see the fingers. Oh my goodness, I would have killed for that. That's more information than tablature can ever give you. So why the obsession with tablature? And is tablature such a great thing after all? In this video, I'm going to point out a few things that I think are real problems with tablature, or if not with tablature itself, how we use tablature. Now, first of all, a disclaimer. Tablature is a great tool. I use tablature. I have free tablature. I have links under videos for tablature. I sell books with tablature in. Tablature is a fantastic tool, but it is a tool. And just as if you have a hammer, it is a great tool for knocking in nails, but not a great tool for sawing a piece of wood in half with. Tools are only any good if you use them for the right thing in the right way. So when you have tablature, or when you think you might want tablature for something, have a think about some of the things I'm going to tell you now, and maybe consider the way you play or the way you learn, and maybe don't be so reliant on having those sheets of tablature in front of you. Problem number one with tablature. Tablature is not universal. It only describes where to put your fingers on whatever instrument is that you are holding. So I have tablature for the uke and tablature for the guitar and tablature for the banjo, and they are useless unless you are holding that instrument. If I pick up my banjo tablature, I cannot play it on my ukulele. It's not any use at all. Whereas something like this is universal. That is music notation showing me the melody with the chord names, but not pictures, just the chord names written above. Anybody can make that tune happen in one form or another from those bits of information. They can strum the chords while someone plays the melody, or if they're very good at singing from music, they could sing the melody from that. They could invent a chord melody arrangement of that themselves by putting together the chords and the melody. They could probably, if you were a good piano player, you could fake a piano arrangement on the spur of the moment if you know the tune and you know the chords. This is what musicians do with these kind of charts. These are often the sort of things that bands will have in front of them if they're like a function band or a jazz band who have a large repertoire of music. They don't want to be sight reading every last note. They just need a guide to how the tune goes. But the important thing is they can all have the same guide. They're not having to write out the tablature for a bass player and the tablature for the guitar player. Tablature is quite limiting in that respect because whilst sheet music and chord charts are widely available, tablature has to have been written down by someone who knows what they're doing, and they have to have written it down for your instrument. So if somebody's written it out for guitar, good luck with that. Someone else is going to have to try and convert that to the ukulele. If they haven't, then you're pretty stuck. Problem number two, leading on from that, tablature doesn't really describe music. If I show you this bit of music notation, even if you can't read music, in fact, ideally, if you cannot read music, have a look at this piece of music notation. Can you see from that that the music is going to go up in pitch and then come down in pitch and then go back up to the middle and kind of stay the same? Now, even if you don't know what the notes are and don't understand music notation at all, there's a logic to that. It goes up as it gets higher, it comes down as it gets lower, and it stays in a line when it's the same. Most people can understand that, pick that up in seconds, even if they never go on to read music. Now, here's some tablature. Now that kind of looks like it's going up and down, doesn't it? The only problem is the music it's describing is not going up and down. We can play a note on the first string and then play a higher note on the third string. Those lines aren't steps of a ladder going up and down in pitch. They're strings. And strings behave in weird ways, and we can play very high on one string and very low on another and play a higher note on a lower string. There's no shape to tablature quite often. We can't look at it and see whether it's going up or down very clearly. Number 3, tablature only shows you one way to play it. Tablature is brilliant for showing you a specific way to play it. If you have written music, then you have to interpret that. If I see the note of C written on a piece of sheet music, I don't know whether to play the C here, or whether to play a C here, or whether to play the C here. They're all exactly the same note of C. But I might find out very quickly after that I picked the wrong one because the next note is now impossible to reach. Whereas tablature will tell me which one of those notes to play, but it won't tell me that it's a C. Now tablature is great for that because when you're learning an arrangement of something, it's often very important that you play the notes on the right strings, because you might need to play one note on one string and then another note straight afterwards on another string. You might need to play chords as part of it, even just 2 notes together. If I have the notes of B and G and I'm expected to play them at the same time, well, they've got to be on different strings, but they've also got to be close enough together to reach. That's a lot of processing power if you're trying to read music, sheet music, and do that. Whereas tablature will just tell you where to put your fingers. But there's a danger to that. It means that when you're learning from tablature, you are just learning mechanical motions. You are copying. You're saying, put this here, put this here, put this here. Now that's a very good way to begin to learn things, but it very quickly stops being a route to learning well. It starts you off brilliantly, but when you start to be more musical, that's when you have to leave that behind and start to think about music and not just copying the numbers. Number 4, tablature frequently does not show the rhythm of the music. Now, some of it does, and it can be adapted to show the rhythm, but the way it shows rhythm is using the same little sticks and flags and ties of standard music notation. So if you learn tablature and you learn to read the rhythm, well, you've just learned to read 50% of regular music notation. That bit isn't specific to tablature at all. If your tablature doesn't show rhythm, it is next to useless. It's not describing the music that you want to play in any way at all. And it's perfectly possible to play from tablature that has no rhythm notation and play something completely different to what the person who wrote it down thought you would play. I really wish, as I said at the beginning, that I could have had access when I was learning, pre-internet, pre-high definition video, pre the ability to even to record something on VHS cassette. I was a teenager before we had a video recorder. I wish I'd had the ability to see people playing up close, in detail, without, if there was a concert video, the odds are the camera would pull away at that key moment and you went, oh, I wanted to see their fingers. Or you would try and look at it, but it's a bit too grainy and blurred because it was a rubbish old VHS cassette. Or you just couldn't see their fingers at all. Whereas now, high definition video, millions of videos to choose from, and quite a lot of them are close up of the person's fingers. And like I said at the beginning, even describing where the fingers are going. Even when that is there, people still ask for tablature. That makes me think that they are attaching some other kind of value to tablature. I actually think that what's happening in a lot of cases is it's a crutch. If I show you how to play something on the ukulele, you have to sit and watch me and you have to learn how to do it. Whereas if I just say, here's the tab, you hit the tab, download button, you download the tab, the problem is that's often as far as it goes. And I'm just as guilty. I have books full of tablature that I have never played through, never learned from. Owning the tablature is not the same as being able to play it, but it does make us feel like we've done something. I've got the tablature, I've printed it, and I've put it in my little book. But that doesn't mean you've learned it at all. Which leads me on to my last point. The biggest problem with tablature is what we do with it. Trying to play directly from tablature, reading it as you play, is very, very difficult. Now I know you're going to say people play from sheet music, but you know what? Sheet music is pretty much designed to be read. It's big black dots on lines. And as I said earlier, we can see the shape. It goes up, it goes down, it stays the same. Tablature is difficult to read, not only because it doesn't make those shapes, but because we're not just looking for where the blob is on the line. We're trying to see if the blob is an 8 or a 6 or a 3. And it's got a line through the middle of it, and a 0 with a line through the middle of it kind of looks like an 8. And a 5, when there's a line going through the middle, could be mistaken for a 6. And it starts to be one of those things where you're really having to spend a lot of time focusing on the individual things and to read them. Because it also doesn't go up and down pitch-wise, we're sort of, fighting and not knowing what we're going to hear as we play it when you sight read it. So I've seen people do this at ukulele clubs, at open mics. They come share a song and they get their sheet out of tablature and start to read from the tablature and play. And it nearly always ends up with the person having to stop and pause, or they misread something and it throws them because that's not a 3, it's an 8, or they're playing down here and suddenly it leaps up the neck, and because they've got to find that particular fret, they take their eyes off the tablature and then they've lost their place and the whole thing grinds to a halt. It very, very rarely works. And that's because what you really need to do with tablature is use it as a tool to learn how to play the piece, rather than using it like you might use a song sheet when you go along to a uke jam where you've got the words and the chords. There's a lot less going on there. You can read words and strum the chords that you're reading at the same time. You can learn to do that quite quickly. Reading from tablature is incredibly challenging, and the music you're playing is probably more complicated than the strumming and singing as well. So the next time you see somebody playing something, and you want to learn to play it, particularly if you see someone on a video like me or any of the other ukulele teachers on YouTube teaching you how to play something, and they've got a nice close-up of their fingers and they're telling you what to do, maybe hold fire on asking for the tab. Or if the tab link is already there, maybe hold fire on downloading that tab. And see if you can pick up as much as you can from watching and listening and following the instruction. It's a much more human way to learn how to play music. It's the way music was taught from generation to generation for a very, very long time. You listened and you copied. While you're doing it, you are also increasing your awareness, you're developing your ear, and you're becoming more musical. I hope this has helped, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.